Evening everybody, and welcome to the very last of our tutorials for the Psychic Spiritual Masterclass. As usual, when you're here, if you could just drop me a wee comment so that I can figure out how many people are here. And just get the screen up. That's great. Okay, good. Hopefully I won't have any issues tonight with the screen. Just drop me a wee line. Let me know you're here. Thank you Sharon, thanks Mariana, that's great, fantastic. Thank you for showing up every week. It's lovely to know that there's someone on the other side of the computer at this particular time, you know, because I know that many people aren't able to make it, so that's great. Thank you, Mariana. Okay, so what I thought we'd do tonight, because I mean the topic of our discussion tonight is going to be all about the two roads and 0 point of time of all things. All things are one, the crystalline heart, and even sort of bridging into, I'd like to talk about Lemuria as well, but before, and so that's going to be great. It's going to be a wonderful discussion. We've done our psychic development. This is really about your spiritual development, high level spiritual development and your ascension process. So what happens once you've really connected with Christ consciousness and integrated Christ consciousness, what's the next step? And obviously that's ascension. So, but what I want to talk about first is if you guys have got any questions about the course so far. So I thought maybe we'd devote maybe half an hour or 20 minutes or so to this. I mean, if you've no questions, fantastic. But if you have any questions, fire them out. Hi everybody, Alison, Sharon, hi, Orla, Marianne, thank you. I know, I can't believe it's week 6 already. It just flew past. It was incredible. I remember whenever I started, I thought, this is going to go on forever. But it's like yesterday. Oh my goodness. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think, well, I know you guys liked it. I know you're enjoying the tutorials and you find them interesting, that, which is fantastic. But I really enjoyed the whole process. Love it. Absolutely love it. And it's lovely to have these recordings now as well. So I think I'll continue with Facebook Live, maybe on my page, Eliza White Buffalo, or maybe in the group for this the sacred sphere, the sacred hoop. If you're not aware of that group, the sacred hoop, I just must put up a wee post later. If you're not aware of that group, do find it and or let me know and I'll invite you into it, because you know, Facebook are, I mean, oh my God, you know, the smartness, you know, and all these algorithms that's happening. I've got about something, probably about 7,000 followers on Facebook, and I think about 500 of them would see my posts, and then any one particular post, maybe about 50 people. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. So go into the Sacred Hoop group because there's a much higher, it's almost about 70% of the members of the group will see every single post when they open their timeline. So you'll not miss anything. And I kind of use that as my page now. That's my personal page now, the Sacred Hoop group, more so than Eliza White Buffalo page, you know. So and nobody any questions? Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Anne. Anne says it's a great group. Thank you. I try to, initially opened the group, it's called the Sacred Hoop, and I initially opened that to teach about shamanism. So some of what we've been talking about this last 6 weeks will be in that, but very, very focused on shamanism more than, you know, spiritual development as a, you know, in a sort of a what's the word? The words just gone out of my head in a very in a way that you know, that covers everything. Spiritual development covers everything, but shamanism is a very unique thread of that, and you can go very, very deep into that. Thank you. Megan says it's one of her favorite pages. She loves the group. Thank you. Marianne, do you ever do any workshops, training in person? Absolutely. I mean, I'm very open, Mariana. You know, whatever you guys want. You know, if some of you feel that, no, that's not the word I was looking. General is the word I was looking for. This group's very general in what we're talking about, and in spirituality and ascension, but shamanism is specific shamanism. So I talk a lot about shamanism in the group, and I teach shamanism in the group, and with posts and different things, because I've taught shamanism for so long, Mariana, one-to-one, yes, and absolutely it's still available if you would want it, or any of the subjects that we've touched upon. If you want a one-to-one, that's fine, no problem. We can set up whatever between us, or even with a group. But with the shamanism, I was teaching it for so long that I wanted to free up my time for other things, mostly just to be Nana, just to be a Nana. So I was working really hard, and of course our travel was limited, so we couldn't travel, and I'll not be traveling for another year or so yet. So you know, I can't get out and about to do those workshops any longer. So I decided to open that group to teach shamanism for free, and give them manuals for free, and just kind of, you know, educate people on shamanism and help them out with whatever questions they had and that. And from time to time I offer what I've got to offer and stuff like that. Thank you, Mariana. Yeah, if you want to do a workshop with me, thank you. If you would like to do a specific workshop with any of the specific topics that we've covered in the last 6 weeks, just send me a wee message. I'm very open, I'm very adaptable. Tell me what you want, and I'll make it happen, you know, so we can make it happen between us. It's not a problem. You and a couple of friends or whatever. If you I'm the type of person as well that, you know, I'll say, okay, let's say it's a 3-hour workshop, then this is as much it's going to be, or it's an hour's workshop, this is as much it's going to be. But if you've got a friend or 2 friends that want to do it as well, and you just want to get together in a wee Zoom group, then I'll just lower the price and sort of spread it out between the 3 of you, you know, that kind of a way, so it's much more affordable for you. But I like to do that. So you guys, answers, the manuals are amazing. Yes, they're there. I mean, they're very cheap. I think they're only £4 for 2 of them and £5 for the other. But if you were part of the group, you'll get the first one for free. There's also videos there that I'm in a process of making certain videos for teaching shamanism as well, and they're very cheap as well. Just to bang them out there so that everybody can get them, and you know, and do their own shamanism in their own home and not have to spend thousands of dollars, you know, because it happens, you know. And Black Elk always, you know, said to me, no, you're not doing any courses, you're not doing any workshops, you don't need to do these things, just listen to me. And so that's where all my education came from spirit, but with having all the psychic senses, it was easy for me to do. and they're there all the time. I mean, even now they're laughing, you know, they're there. They love this, and they love you guys. They love what we've done here. They feel that we've done in 6 2-hour sessions. We will have done in 6 2-hour sessions what would take people normally years to understand, to grasp, and they're pleased that the way that they've taught me and the understanding that I have in a simplistic manner of their teachings, that they're pleased that I've been able to relay that to use throughout the last 6 weeks. And they're just expressing their love for me, and that is wonderful, because they're always doing it, you know, all the guys. So and they're here tonight, and they want to get a little bit involved tonight. So I am assuming that's okay with you if we start to channel a little bit. Bridgine, the whole course has been so enlightening. You are an amazing woman. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Bridgine. That's lovely of you to say that. You know, it's always good to hear things like that. You know, I think we all need encouragement. We all need to, you know, something that helps us to focus on the positive about ourselves, instead of, you know, criticizing ourselves and looking to what we've done wrong or what mistakes we might make and stuff like that. Especially when you're trying to do what I do, which is to get the message of the 2 roads, Black Elk's 2 roads, get that message out to everybody. So there's my cue to start talking tonight. I want to talk about the 2 roads, and I've talked to you about Black Elk before, who he is in relation to me. He's my twin flame. That's a lifetime that I lived. And I was 36 when I realized that Black Elk actually lived and wasn't my imaginary friend when I was a child. That he wasn't an imaginary friend. Thank you, Megan. Yes, you can revisit this program. I'm going to leave these videos up. This group is going to be here indefinitely until Facebook take it down, and hopefully that'll never be. So you can revisit these at any time. At some stage I'm going to put them on YouTube for private viewing. So I will probably send them to all the YouTube links to all of you, so that you have them there on YouTube as well. Okay, so Black Elk was a real person then. When I was 36, someone said to me, a psychic said to me, well, you know, that man Black Elk really lived, you know, and he told me about Black Elk Speaks, the book about Black Elk and his great vision. And I was like, wow, really? So, you know, so I looked up the book and I found a copy second hand, and I bought it, and I was reading it, first chapter, and I got the heebie-jeebies, you know. I just, there was all sorts of things happening with me. I was still very much unconscious at that stage. I wasn't very awake, quite negative about myself and that. But I was reading this story about this man called Black Elk, and I couldn't help but feel, no, that's my life. That's me. Those are my dreams that vision's talking about. That's my dream. That's a dream that I had many times in my life. And that Indian that was with me as a child, he spoke about that. And, you know, Black Elk would have said to me then, because you are me. We're one and the same. We're the same heart. That's the way he put it. We're the same heart. You know, so it was lovely. We're the same heart. We're the same flame. We're going to be talking about that tonight. What the flame means and what it is to be the same flame. We're going to be talking about twin flames and what that really is in relation to the singularity, in relation to the orb that is all that there is. So he began to teach me the 2 roads, and it was called the 2 roads because when he was a catechist in his later years, age 49, he became 39 or 49. 39, he became a Catholic. He became a catechist because he was such a great preacher, because he was a holy man, essentially. He became a catechist, and he began to read from the Indian Bible, Lakota Bible, and he began to teach about the Jesus Christ and his teachings from the perspective of the people's Lakota religion. So we began to put the two of them together, and basically what I'm doing, only instead of putting it together with Lakota religion, I'm putting it together with shamanism. I'm putting Catholicism, Christianity together with shamanism, with a little bit of Lakota thrown in, because I don't want to appropriate Lakotaism either. I'm not a fan of that. Black Elk had a map that he used to assist him with his teachings, and it was called the Two Roads map, because it clearly showed two roads. So when I had written my first book, and I was putting it out there and looking for a name, Black Elk said it's called the Two Roads, and it's called the Two Roads because of the red stone of power. And we're going to be talking about the red stone of power later, when he asked me about the red stone of power. That began his teaching to me in earnest of this, of the two roads, which is two roads crossing over in a circle. It's a very, very old symbol. It's as old as life itself, that symbol. It's called the Coptic cross. It was an Egyptian symbol. It's probably on all the pyramids and everything. But it's also a symbol that the Lakotas were very, very close to, which is the medicine wheel. Sitting Bull used to wear it hanging around his neck. This kind of a cross in a circle, and the cross was not just like like a plus sign, but it was like the Holy Grail, where it was actually a bowl shape. So this symbol, the two roads, it's a bowl shape. I don't know if you can see that. See that? And it represents consciousness. It represents the soul. It represents the Merkaba, which is the light body. It represents the two roads, which of earth and spirit, of body and soul. It represents the threefold flame, which is the fire in the center, or the Christians would call the Sacred Heart. We'll be talking about that later as well. So this little symbol on its own represents the ascended soul on earth, what we're all going towards, what we're all seeking, what we've been talking about this past 6 weeks, the journey to that. Okay, so let's begin at the beginning of the two roads, and let's talk about duality again, because remember we talked about this is the singularity, which is the 0 point of everything, and this singularity is mirrored in the world as the duality. So in the world, in the duality, there is body as well as soul. There is dark as well as light, darkness as well as light. There's negativity as well as positivity, and there's the without as well as the within. Everything has a duality. I mean, up, down, in, out, yes, no, light, dark, black, white. Everything has a duality. Solid, non-solid. So, and because everything in the duality is a reflection of the 0 point of everything, is a reflection of the soul, then everything in the duality is part of the whole. It's part of the one. And remember that one is you. The soul, the one, consciousness, that's you. You are the essence of source in body. You are this moment. You are time. You are, I suppose, God in the duality, a reflection, a spark. I mean, if you take a flame or a fire, which is, let's say, God or source, and a spark comes from that fire and burns, that fire of the flame, the spark, is not any different from the original fire. It's the same fire. And it can grow and expand to become more and more like the original source. So when we say that without, everything is a reflection of within, consciousness, source, and you are that source, then we're looking, the duality that we're looking at is I am one, source, God, or whatever, and the reflection of that is I am everything, and everything is a piece or a reflection of God's source consciousness. This, and it's in here. Thank you, Anne. It says great analogy. Good. So everything's one thing, and everything is many things at the same time, and you are one and you are many at the same time. You know that you are many lifetimes, that you are many levels of awareness, that you are many forms, and all of these things are seemingly outside of this form, but that there truly is no separation when it comes to form itself, because all form is earth, air, fire and water, which is you. Okay, so there's a wee bit of shamanism tone in there. So when we look at this duality, let's look at the two road symbol again, the two roads. Oh, it's always hard to know which way to turn it. I think if I want to go this way, that you know, I end up going the opposite way. I'm not very logical minded. So there's two roads and they cross over each other, and in the center there's the fire, and that's the source. That's the 0 point of all things. That's the source of consciousness, which is you. And those two roads are projected out from you. There's one road which goes from, if you think about the medicine wheel, like the Lakota's symbol, then it goes from the east to the west, or the west to the east, and that's the earthly path. That's the path of body that we walk and our life. But there's that other path which crosses over it, up, down, north, south, and that path is what we call the Good Red Road. You hear shamans or Indians, Native American Indians, talking about the Good Red Road, and that Black Elk talked about the Good Red Road. And the Good Red Road is the path of spirituality. It's the path of connection to your soul, and that's what we've been talking about this past 5 weeks, 6 weeks. We've been talking about the Good Red Road. So you're well versed now on the Good Red Road. You're well versed as to how to connect with that part of yourself, that road, that part of your duality. And you're of course well versed with the earthly path. That is your ego, it's physicality, it's solid, it's all the things that is here and now in a physical sense, and spirituality is all the things that is here and now in a spiritual sense. And when I say here and now in a spiritual sense, I mean, I don't mean I mean presence. Yeah, I mean presence. Someone asked me a question today, and I can't for the life of me now remember who it was that asked the question, but it was one of you guys. Asked me a question today. What's the difference between spirit and soul? Really good question. And I think the ultimate answer to that is a soul is it's this. Soul is the consciousness and the body and the journey and the peace of God that's here on earth, the peace of source that's living, that's alive and dies and is alive and dies, and that's soul. So that's got all the information, experience of history and other lifetimes and now and the future, and everything's in that soul. Where spirit then is the presence of that soul. Spirit is the projections of that soul, what you project. I guess your mood, not so much your mind, but the feeling, the atmosphere, the projections, that's spirit. And that lasts forever. What you project into being, what you project into life. So for example, Eliza, I am a projection of my soul. And I was projected into life in Ireland in 1965, and everything up to now has all been projections, and that's my spirit. And that lives forever, that never dies, and that continues on. So you see, Black Elk is connected with me by soul. We're the same soul, and yet Black Elk is a separate spirit from Eliza White Buffalo. We're not the same spirit. We're not the same person. We didn't project the same information into the world, and yet we're the same soul. So that's the difference in soul and spirit. Let's talk about this again. And you see the two roads crossing over each other, and I want to talk about balance, because I begin talking about this, I think, in my second book, at the beginning of my second book, in the Civilization of Atlantis, where my soul begins to understand the two roads and the balance point in the center. Hi Yvonne. Yvonne's just joined us. And this balance in the center is all about ascension. It's all about ascension. So you have the earthly path, and you have the path that crosses over, which is the good red road, or the spiritual path. And if you were to just walk this earthly path, I mean, without any spirituality, without, introspecting into your spirituality and into your spirit, into who you are underneath the person, underneath the body, underneath the face, underneath the name, the part of you that you feel within, that calls itself I, and is always there, regardless of who you think you are, of what you say you are, of what you think you're doing, or whatever. There's this part of you that's good, and this part of you that exists forever, and you can feel it within. And when you meditate, you certainly feel it, and you experience it, and you see it in beautiful colours. It's your spirit. That's your spirit. And that spirit within is the fire. A spirit is a flame. It's the flame of the original fire, which I suppose is God or beloved source. As each soul manifests from another soul, as each soul is begotten from another soul, as each moment is begotten from another moment, there is a spirit connected to that, which is the projections of that truth, the projections of that presence. So spirit is presence, and that's what I told this lady today. Spirit is presence, and the body is reverence. Soul is reverence. Soul is reverence and resonance, whereas spirit is the presence, atmosphere, the awareness of the soul and of all that is as one. So that spirit continues on after death, after the body dies, after the individual soul, which is Eliza White Buffalo, goes back to the whole soul in beloved source, and another piece of the soul is projected forth, and that'll be another person in another lifetime who'll hopefully one day turn around and say, I was Eliza White Buffalo in a past lifetime, and I was Black Elk in another lifetime, and so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean that I'll be she and she'll be me, in the same way as I'm not Black Elk, Black Elk's not Eliza, and yet we are the one soul. But our projections, our emanations, our presence in life are separate. Our spirits are separate. So that's the difference between spirit and soul. When we talk about balance, we talk about the balance point of those two roads. Because if you just walk that physical road only, that earthly path, without any spirituality, without introspecting into your who am I at all, and having any kind of connection to that, then you'd probably live okay and you'd exist okay, and then you'd die, and then you'd have a queer eye opener then, because you'd realise then that you continue on, you know. But when you follow a spiritual path, and if you only follow a spiritual path, then you'll have someone like me, that like I was in way back in the noughties, you know, 2002 on to 2009. You'll have someone like me who was very much connected to her spirit, very much connected to Black Elk, the spirit within, but not so much connected to the soul here and now, not grounded, walking the spiritual path, high as a kite, in a trance all the time, not able to cope with physical life very much, losing physical energy every day, a complete empath, soaking up everybody's energy, and being confused as to what was me and what was them and whatever, so on and so forth. But that's what happens when you have a person that only tries to walk that spiritual path and completely invests everything into the spiritual path. And I think nowadays some people like to call people, you know, fluffies, you know, people that are always talking about light, 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 and ignoring the darkness within them. And we talked about that before, remember. We said it's very important that you have that balance, that you don't invest every waking moment into light, but that you recognize your darkness, recognize the body, recognize the soul, and merge the light with the darkness, merge the soul with the body, or the spirit into the physicality. So that's the balance point of the two roads. When you can stay in that center and you're you're dead in the center of the two roads, where the ruby is, the red stone of power, and you're able to see that horizontal path, and you're able to see the vertical path as well. And because everything's connected to us, everything is part of the whole. the whole, then everything in life, no matter what you're looking at, is a reflection of what you're projecting out there. So everything can teach you. That's why we find signs everywhere in the universe. And at this stage of the game, when you've connected to, I'll read that in a moment, Mariana. At this stage of the game, when you've connected to your soul family, remember in the 8th dimension, and you come into that unity consciousness, then you will understand and you will relate to the world and everything in the world and everything in every moment that you're seeing, hearing, experiencing with your physical senses. You will be able to relate that to your soul and what's happening and where your soul is, where you are in the path, what lessons you need to understand, and even confirmations of questions that you've been asking your spirit. Mariana is asking, does death scare you at all, Eliza? Or that you'll be told when you're going to die by your guides at a time you may not want to leave? Well, I have been told that I'll live till I'm 94, so I guess I'm okay. But part of me thinks, oh God, 94, I'd prefer 84, but as long as I've got my faculties about me and I'm able to think for myself, that's fine, I'll have that. I love life, I embrace life, but no, Marianne, I'm not afraid of death because, I'm sure none of you guys are really afraid of death either, but I'm not really afraid of anything because I know everything is a projection, a reflection of my own projections, and as long as I'm staying positive, then everything that I experience will be forwards moving on the path for the benefit of my soul. And everything is temporary. When you begin to journey into the center of all things, and you begin to journey through time and space through 0 point, like I do with the journeys that I do for people, you cannot believe in physicality. You cannot get stuck in physicality. You cannot get weighed down by anything in the physicality, in time, in duality. You just can't, because for me it's a fleeting thought of being here and now talking to you and being in the year 20. It's just a fleeting thought, and I can astral project to that. I would need to close my eyes, of course, and I experience it in my imagination or in my astral self. I'll experience that. And I know that because I've worked with that many spirits too, with crossing them over and into the light and the various celestial spirits that I work with, that and I've crossed over into the light so many times in my life and kind of disappeared and come back into my body that I know that death is not even a thing. It's not even a thing. Death's only a concept. It's only an idea. And what it is about is the releasing of the old and the embracing of the new, of coming into the new. I know for a fact that, I mean, this is my absolute truth. Whether you guys take it as absolutely your truth or not, that's up to you. But my absolute truth is that when this body passes, when this body dies, I will immediately take another body. It will seem immediate to me. And I'm looking forward to that because I have made a pact with myself that I will remember. When I come into another body, I will not forget. I will remember. I will be awake. and I will remember who Eliza White Buffalo was, and who she still is. And at the same time, I know that even though I'm going to have that reality, I will know that Eliza White Buffalo will be eternally in love, in spirit, in light, with my spirit team and with the family that I have here on earth that loved me. And I know that I will exist in that love forever, in light, in mind. And that it won't even seem like an eternity. It'll seem like a moment. Everything will seem just like moments. I've travelled thousands of years, and planets, never mind geography of Earth, planets. And it's all momentary. It doesn't take the speed of light, probably quicker than the speed of light even. It doesn't take forever to create a universe. It takes a split moment. It takes a thought. And so when you understand that, then you cannot be afraid of death, because death is not a thing. You're welcome. No, death's not a thing. Even illness. I get ill like everybody else. Although I tell myself I do not use illness for this body. But I'm human, of course, and you know, as human, then, you know, I fall from a state of grace. I fall from a state of full Christ awareness. And when I get sick, I know that it can be healed in a moment, because the sickness is not real. It's just an illusion. It's just the slowing down of time, and it's me that's doing that. The slowing down of the body, the slowing down of the process of even creation. And we'll be talking about that in the energy clearing workshop that I'm doing, the energy cleansing workshop. We'll be talking about that, what I've just said. So knowing that, then healing becomes spontaneous. Healing becomes a change of mind. Healing becomes a return to Christ consciousness, to mastery consciousness. A return to source, forgiveness onto the Father. Okay. So this balance point, you know, I want to talk about the idea of the Holy Trinity, because when we come into the crystalline DNA, or the crystalline heart of our soul, we're talking about the Holy Trinity: mind, body, spirit, Father, Mother, and child, or Father, Mother, and creation, divine feminine, divine masculine, Christ energy, mother energy, father energy, child energy. And this balance of three essences of the one consciousness, or the one creation, which is the reflection of consciousness, the balance point of that is 0 point. So, okay, I'm going to try and explain something here, and I'm sure you'll get. When I talked about everything in this duality outside of us is a reflection of what's inside of us, then everything in the duality, which seems to have four faces: earth, air, fire, and water, or mind, body, spirit, and emotion, or north, south, east, west. Everything seems to have four faces. But in shamanism, we talk about it having three essences, being one thing, but three essences of that one thing. And those three essences are mind, body, spirit. Those three essences are masculine, feminine, and creation. Those three essences are up, down, and in between, or yes, no, and maybe, or what do we see? Past, present, future. Now we're talking about time, and it's all the one. So everything in this world, even though it's got a duality to it, it's also got three essences to it. It's only one thing. It's got a duality to it. It's also got three essences to it, and it's also got four faces. And so we can choose to look at anything in life, something that a person says when we turn on the TV, and there's a documentary about time, and somebody says something about time, and your spirit or your guidance is going, oh, listen, and you get a feeling about something. Listen, because no matter what they're talking about, you can look at what they're talking about from a perspective of the duality, and so you're staying in between. There's the Trinity in itself. You have the earthly path, the physical path, you have the spiritual path, the good red road, and you have the in between that. You have the balance of both. So there's the Trinity in itself. You take what you know from both paths, what you can see from both paths very clearly, because you're in the center and you can see them both. And you take what you can see from both and you bring them into the center, and you feel your way with it, and you say, okay, what is this telling me? What's this telling me? And you see, if you use the two roads like that, use the duality like that, and stay in the center all the time, and view everything that you can sense in the world, hearing, seeing, reading, everything, no matter what's happening, if you view it from a perspective from the center, using both what you know logically from an earthly sense, and also view it from a spiritual perspective, and bring those two together, then you get balance, and you won't be as high as a kite, you won't be away with the fairies, or you won't be sort of bogged down in a physical or body only, but you will awaken and you will rise. And the reason you will rise is because if you look at the symbol again, look at the center, that's you in the center, and you're looking at both roads. You can clearly see both roads. And whenever you are viewing something on the outside of you with your senses, and you take it from a perspective, or view it from a perspective of both roads, then the center is activated and it starts to move. And it doesn't just go up like this, it spirals around that medicine wheel, north, south, east, west, and it spirals and spirals and it spirals and it spirals outwards and it spirals inwards. Do you remember we talked about the torus, which is your soul projecting out and then taking in, consuming in? So with your breath you go out, with the out breath you go out, and with the in breath you go in. So that momentum creates like a spiral, and you start to move around the mind, body, spirit, emotion. You start to move around this process of life, of creation, and you start to, you have days and years and lifetimes, and that's the physical perspective. But then you have shifts and another shift and another shift, not only in your mind but in your spirit, and then in your emotions, and then of course in your body. So your world changes. That's when your body changes. And so you have shift after shift after shift in each one of these four parts of yourself. And eventually You come away from the 4 parts of yourself, and you come into the 3 parts of yourself, which is the Holy Trinity, and that's the sacred fire in the center, the red stone of power. Black Elk asked me at one time, I think it was about 2006 or so, where is the red stone of power? And I didn't know what he was talking about, but of course my soul knew what he was talking about, and I answered, it's in the 9th of the 12th. Now I know now that the 9th of the 12th meant the 9th dimension above the soul star. So here's the 8th and then the 9th. It was in the 9th dimension of 12 dimensions. And remember, these don't just go up, but they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it was in the 9th dimension of 12 dimensions. It was in the higher third eye, the activation of my pineal gland. And so a lot of you guys have gone through that process yourselves, where your pineal gland has been activated, and your third eye activates, and it's like you come into an awareness of unity consciousness as light. You begin, the world begins to shift, you know. So you've got the unity consciousness from the 8th, and it comes down into the 9th, and the third eye is now looking at the world and seeing that unity consciousness in the world. And it comes down and down and down. These are more shifts. So instead of going ascending up, at one stage you'll turn around. Black Elk said to me, you are turning around and you're starting to incarnate again. You're starting to descend into the body. So this fullness of my 8th dimension, the fullness of my soul, is starting now to descend into the body once I activated the 9th dimension. Because the 9th dimension is the first part of the spirit world, the first chakra that you will activate, that allows you to be out of body, that allows you to be not just body and spirit, but only spirit, only mind, and you're one with all minds. Okay, sorry, I was just reading that there. You're one with all minds, and you bring that that flame, that spark of that dimension down in. When you activate the pineal gland, then the pituitary gland activates. They all activate in turn then from the pineal. So you activate the pineal gland, that's the awakening of your third eye. And then that awakens the pituitary gland, which is your Christ consciousness gland. And when the Christ consciousness gland awakens, then the thymus awakens, which is the Christ love, the sacred heart. And when and this is the 8, 9, 10. This is the 10th dimension here. A celestial dimension, a dimension of service to humanity, service to the universal life, not just humanity, service to all cosmic universal life. And when you awaken your thymus, which is, you know, you remember I talked about the recalibrations that I was doing, this is one of them, awakening the Lemurian energy, the thymus gland, the Christ love. And we were on Lemuria when we last awakened that. When you awaken that, the source flame, that fire I spoke about earlier, that source flame awakens. And it's like a white fire, because it's pure light. And it burns very, very fiercely. And out of that emanates your twin flame, your masculine, feminine flames, which was first activated whenever you became into balance. Whenever you first came into balance, whenever you merged your soul and body, your twin flame was activated in your heart. Well, when you bring the light of the 9th dimension right down in and then into the 10th dimension, that flame, twin flame there that's burning in the white fire source, it marries, it comes together. It creates the Christ consciousness, Christ love. And this is the awakening of your flame of service to humanity, to all universal life. This is the awakening to your mastery. All mastery is a flame of service. And one of the, and that is then a threefold flame, not just a double flame, a twin flame, but a threefold flame. And that threefold flame is the flame of love, power, and wisdom. It's pink and blue and yellow, and it burns with the Christ consciousness. It burns with the flame of service to all universal life. So there is no decision to be made at this stage as to whether or not you're going to serve your fellow human beings. You are going to serve your fellow human beings, because you remember that this is not what you chose to do. This is what you are. You are the flame of service. You are the flame of Christ's love, which serves all universal life and is the source of all universal life. Just as the sun serves the earth, you will serve all universal life. You'll serve humanity and the earth, your mother. And the crystalline heart activation that I do, you see it there. I'll put up a wee note about it. The crystalline heart activation is called Your Crystalline Heart. That is talking about what Black Elk talks about, the two roads symbol. What he talks about, the red stone of power, which burns with the emanations from the threefold flame. It gives off a pink, a rose frequency, and that's why mine's a pink. It's ruby, but there's 3 different frequencies, because there's 3 different rays: the pink ray, the blue ray, and the yellow ray. Of love, power, and wisdom. These are the attributes of all the masters. These are the attributes of the flame of God: love, power, wisdom. And when that burns, when that projects out into the universe, it's a rose frequency, and there's 3 of them, because there's 3 specific rays. So you can either be, I remember we talked before about the 12 rays of God, and everybody comes in one specific ray, whatever. When it comes down to the threefold flame, when you we're not talking about splitting into 12 now, but we're talking about reuniting into one, which is 3. Then there's 3 rays, and depending on which one of those rays you're on, you will either resonate with a crystalline ruby frequency, or the frequency of garnet, or the frequency of rose quartz. Those 3 frequencies, those 3 gemstones and crystals, they emanate and hold the Holy Trinity. Each one of them holds the entire Holy Trinity and emanates one of those rays in itself. You put them all three together, then you've all three. But so when you come to do your crystalline heart, then Black Elk will help you to understand just which one of those rays of service you're here on. Is it the service of love? Is it the service of power? Is it the service of wisdom? And of course it's all three, that we're here to learn all three, and to manifest all three in our soul, and to emanate all three into the world. But for our specific flame of service, we focus on one particular one of those rays. So all the masters can be divided into three. These masters, they work on the ray of the ruby ray of love and the twin flame, or this master works on the yellow ray of illumination and wisdom, or this master works on the healing ray, the blue ray of power. And so we'll all be sort of not divided up, that's not a good word to use, or even categorized, but we'll all be sort of come under one of those specific flames, one of those three flames. And even though, like, we are all that is within ourselves, and we're everything at the same time, we are one of those flames, and we're three at the same time. And this begins our path of divine life's purpose on earth, our unique flame. I'm on a flame of mercy and forgiveness, divine love, mercy and forgiveness. And that's my flame. And I'm an initiate into that flame of service. And Black Elk is initiate into that flame of service. We haven't been, what would you call it, graduated yet. We're not full masters. Well, I certainly am not a full master, but that's the path that I'm on. That's the teaching that I'm receiving right now from other masters, from Black Elk, from my own self. And each one of you will do the same thing. You will find that you are a unique flame of service to universal life. And your journey of ascension then on earth will take on the awareness of that flame, and how best to project that into life. So your profession, how you carry yourself, what you talk about. For me, my life has always been about mercy and forgiveness. My whole life has been about mercy and forgiveness and divine love. And it was tough. It was really tough, because I had to walk the darkness of behind that flame before I was able to walk the light of that flame. But now I'm burning brightly with it and emanating it out there. So I want to talk about your crystalline heart and 0 point, because that crystalline heart, your rose frequency, whether it's ruby, rose quartz, or garnet frequency, that is your 0 point of all things. 0 point of time, 0 point of space, 0 point of consciousness. And so traveling through your crystalline heart, taking everything through your crystalline heart, which of course you could also say is the balance point between spirit and body, between your good red road and your earthly path. It's the heart. So when you come into that higher heart and activate the crystalline frequency, then that's 0 point of all things. And that's when you find time falling apart. That's when you find that healing is spontaneous. But you must be mindful of that, of course. Mindfulness is very, very important. And we teeter back and forth between mindfulness and into the spiritual side, and then into the earthly side, and then back into mindfulness again. Mindfulness, I guess, is balance. So we must have balance. We must be mindful of viewing the world from the perspective of that flame of source, from your own unique threefold flame. Whenever I travel through time and space and stuff, I'm going through 0 point. Whenever I travel, which I've been doing recently, into other civilizations and parallel civilizations, so into Lemuria as it is now even, and as it was then, I'm going through 0 point. And that's how I get to experience Lemuria again, my Lemurian energy, activate the Lemurian energy within you as well, because it can only be activated from within Lemurian energy. Our Lemurian energy is very important to us, because that was the last time we activated our pineal glands. That was the last time we activated our pituitary mastery glands, and that's the last time we activated our thymus Christ love glands on earth. So we were fully activated in divine light and love on Lemuria before it fell. And we will be again in this new age, this new golden age that's here, that's starting now. Excuse me. The Lemurians used crystals. You know that crystals can be programmed. We talked about that. We said that they can be programmed, that they hold information and they project information out as well, and they magnify information that's projected from the emanations of your energy field. So whenever I'm wearing the two-road symbol, my threefold flame, my thymus Christ love is being magnified through the gemstone, the ruby, and out into the world. So this magnifies my flame of service into the world. Of course it's emanating out without it, but using a crystal, then it holds the information. And the thing is too, you see, this ruby crystal gemstone, when I talk about my thymus gland and the Christ love activated there, and I'm coming into the memory of it, the recollection of the pieces of it, the information that's stored in it, then I'll find the same information stored in a ruby, in a pure ruby. You'll find the same information. And so the Lemurians used crystals to program other worlds and to magnify their highest emanations from the threefold flame through these crystals, not only to magnify their love and light, but to manifest other worlds as well. So the Lemurians were very capable of creating connection with all universal life, as I said before, experiencing all universal life, and also creating new souls, new times, new moments, new realities, new worlds within worlds within worlds within worlds. So new dimensions all the time. The Lemurians were master creators. And something that I discovered in one of my journeys that they do, they showed me, I suppose I only understand it to a certain level at the moment, so I don't understand anything as intricate as I could understand, because there's always more, there's always deeper, there's always more intricacy you know. So what I understand about this awareness of Lemuria that I found recently is that they used crystals to program new worlds, visions, experiences, and they learned this information from the dolphins and the whales and the manatees and the pneumos, which were like a primitive mer people. They were like tiny little beings. I don't know what size they are, but I see them about this size, and they're like little beings with almost animalistic torso and a fish's tail, and they eventually evolved into manatees, and then into mermaids, and and then into human beings, and so on and so forth. And the human beings of Lemuria lived alongside their less evolved selves in the oceans, and their more highly evolved selves in the oceans as well, the dolphins and the whales and that. So they learned from the whales and the dolphins in the same way as we learn from the extraterrestrials, if you know what I mean, from the Palladians and that, and that sent us all this information about Christ consciousness and that. The Palladians sent us a lot of information in the 1980s and 1990s about the Christ consciousness grid around the earth, and how the power points in the earth connect up to it, and that. The same as saying the Christ consciousness grid around your body, and how the power points, which is chakras, connect up to it. It's the same thing. As usual, just fire me a question if you've got a question, and because I don't want to go too fast or go too complicated. I have a very tendency to get too intricate into things, and I'm understanding, but then perhaps the person that's listening to me is not understanding. It's going, what's she talking about now? It's like, wee, no, but I feel it, because it's coming from my spirit team, and they're sending it through me, and I feel it, so I understand it in the moment, and I say these things, and then I notice that the person that's listening to me has got the 40-yard stare, and I realise, oh, I've lost them, you know. So I have to try and backtrack a little bit. So if you've got a question, just fire it out there, and I'll try to backtrack a little bit. Okay. I'm just listening to what Black Elk is saying to me at the moment, and I'll tell you what it is that he's saying in a moment. Oh, he's reminded me. He wanted me to talk to you guys about Lemurian seed crystals. Just a moment, please. Because I think maybe I already showed you this. I can't remember if I did or not, but did I show you the Lemurian seed crystal? Yeah. Do you see the wee magician standing in the bottom, in the cave in the bottom? He's amazing. I took a photograph of him. I must put it up in the post. To show you guys. I think I did before anyway, but it's amazing. Yeah. What I discovered was that the Lemurians, the ones that worked with crystals and creation, and I suppose they were a specific level of Lemuria, a specific level of consciousness or intelligence at that particular time. And I'm sure, like every civilization and every age, that you had people that were working on different levels. So, but these particular ones anyway, they were working with crystals, huge, big, giant quartz, and a lot of amethyst, and a lot of labradorite, blue tourmaline, crystals like that. They also worked with gemstones, such as ruby and garnet, of course, rose quartz as well, of course. And massive big crystals they worked with, possibly still in the earth themselves, and they worked with these, and they were able to create, by magnifying through these crystals and gemstones, they were able to create realities that were probably not physical human realities, and they were able to take subjects such as, say for example, me. They were able to take me in body, because I seen this in a journey that I did recently, and they were able to take me in body and almost replicate my energy field. So produce an electronic double of the energy field of a particular soul, and that electronic double then would be programmed into crystals, seed crystals. And seed crystals are crystals that have all the information of a particular soul in them. So they're replicas of souls. Now I'm talking about replicas of all our souls, of every soul that lives today in this time of awakening, in this level of awakening to Lemurian consciousness, to Christ love. There is a seed crystal that is a replica of your soul, and this one is mine. This one here is mine, and it took me a long time to find it. I was given information about it, and I was told to find it, and every time I went to look, I just felt no, I'm not ready yet, I'm not finding it yet, and I kind of give up the search so many times. I'd start and stop and start and stop, and eventually I knew, only about maybe 6 weeks ago, I knew it was time for me to call that crystal home to me, to my soul, so that I can work with it. And you guys have one as well. A lot of people have Lemurian seed crystals, and I would say there's no accident. I would say the seed crystals that you have, at least one of them is a replica of your soul. It's the information taken from, programmed from an energetic double, or not an energetic, an electronic double of your energy field at one time in Lemuria. And those seed crystals stayed in the earth, or they stayed in that reality, etheric reality. You know, it was a non-physical reality. They stayed there until that reality became physical, and of course the reality is becoming physical now. The crystal that is in this Lemurian seed crystal is an outward manifestation of the crystalline frequency of my own body, the crystalline frequency of my own individual soul. So when we talk about having crystalline frequency, it's not that if you cut us open we're full of crystals. It's crystal, we're not. We'll be blood and guts, the same as everybody else. But our energy field, the subtle bodies, the spiritual bodies around us, are emanating with a crystalline frequency, and the crystalline frequency of this crystal. So if I was to emanate from my thymus gland the Christ love through the ruby, which is the two in my two road symbol, but it's ruby frequency that's coming out. It's ruby frequency that's being emanated, and I emanated through this and use this as well. Wow. Wow. We're talking about the kind of power that creates physical realities, because it created this in the first place. We're talking about the kind of power that has already created our golden age. And you might say that you and I didn't do that people that came before us did that, and yes, they did. You know, people that were awake before us and ascended and came into their crystalline consciousness of their thymus gland. They have done that, yes, but they are us. They are us. And because they awoke, we awoke. And because we awoke, other people are awakening, because they're us. Okay, so we can separate ourselves in that way. Not at this stage of the game. We cannot separate ourselves. We can't play that game. Can't play that game of separation. Yeah, Mariana's got a seed crystal, and Bridgine has some too. Bridgine, yep, that's such a lovely name, that Bridgine. My goodness, Irish name, of course. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so that's about Lemuria, and what I'm doing at the minute is a succession of or a series of retreats to the masters, to really reconnect with our Lemurian selves, with our mastery selves, our crystalline heart. And so there's a series of activations there. I'll put up a link to the whole thing so that you can see it, if you're interested in that. But it's like I said before. Do you remember I said before that these activations and work that I do, and even right down to the way that I teach about stuff and that's from my unique perspective, and a great deal of it will resonate with you. You know, probably all of it will resonate with you, but when you do these things, you will resonate with them with a different perspective, your own unique perspective, your own unique truth, and that's important. It's important for two reasons. It's important because the last thing you want to do is attach your knowledge to me. Your knowledge and your wisdom and your light to me, that you are receiving something from me, but that you are receiving something from me who is a reflection of you. That you're really receiving from yourself. You've projected it forwards, even as we're speaking now. You're projecting out into the universe, and the universe is responding to you and reflecting your wisdom back to you, using this form, this voice, this perspective. So whenever you take this perspective back to yourself, as Black Elk would say, take it back to yourself, then you will find that you have a unique way of resonating with that and projecting it out again. So this is only teaching. This is only a reminder. And the unique way that you have of projecting all of these frequencies out, you had in Lemuria as well. And you know, people say, oh, I was in Atlantis, and I think I might have been in Lemuria as well. We were all in Lemuria. We were all in Atlantis. We were all Arcturians. We were all Syrians. We were all Venusians. We were all Palladians. We were all mermaids, we were all manatees, we were all whales, we were all donkeys, you know. Because you are all things. All time, all space, all experience. It's all you. And at this stage of the game, when we're talking about our crystalline selves, whether we're talking about our Lemurian crystalline selves, or we're talking about our specific rose frequency from our threefold flame, at this stage of the game, we cannot buy into individualism and separation in any way. We can't give all of our attention to the idea that you or I are anything but whole, anything but source. And this is how we become the master, because the master does not play with individualism. The master knows that its twin flame is the outside world. So let's just spend the rest of our time here talking about twin flames. And if you have any questions about twin flames, fire them up. Any experiences to share about twin flames, just fire them up in a comment, please. Excuse me. When we first encountered the idea of twin flames, like with me and Black Elk, I'd never heard the term twin flame before. I'd heard the term soulmate and kindred soul in my life. You know, many a time it's a very common concept, but I'd never heard the term twin flame until I began to read Black Elk Speaks in the end of 2002, and Black Elk told me I was a twin flame. So then he began to explain what that was, and the explanation in that day, of course, had to come through my understanding. And understanding of all spiritual concepts has to come from, I'll answer that in a moment, Mariana. Understanding of all spiritual concepts has to come from a very grounded level, worldly level, and then get more and more integrated into all that is. Okay, so we understood chakras, the three-dimensional chakras, before we understood the fourth-dimensional chakras, before we understood the fifth-dimensional chakras, before we understood crystalline consciousness. Mariana has asked, can someone here now be a twin flame? Absolutely. So I thought at that stage that a twin flame was your spirit, a masculine. If you're a woman, then it's a masculine part of you that's in the spirit world. But that's not always the case. That is true in a way, because there's so many levels of understanding this. If you look at the fact that you are a soul, and soul is feminine, and you're also spirit, and spirit is masculine, then that is true. What's living is here, and what's in the spirit is the twin flame. So that's kind of true on that level. And you know, all realities, all understandings, all perspectives of any truth are all true. Because you know, if you what do we say? We'll find something. The crystal. I think we did this before, where, you know, your perspective of that crystal is, you can see all of this beautiful amethyst, and it looks a bit blue. But I actually see most of the rock. When I'm looking at it, I'm describing rock, and it's silver and black and grey, and with a wee bit of purple on the top. And yet we're talking about the same thing. I'm not wrong, you're not wrong, and you never will be, and it never will be wrong. But when we move this about, because we've got a different perspective, if we rise up over it and we look down, then the two of us start to see the same thing, and it becomes something different. We know we're seeing this, but we know that this exists too, that this exists, that this exists, and this exists. Even though we're not looking at it any longer, we're looking at this, and we're looking at the same thing, the crystalline consciousness. We know that the dense rock exists, and we know that the less dense rock exists. Yeah? So it's the same with twin flames. It begins with the idea that there's someone in the world that is for you, a lover that's for you, and they'll mirror you completely, and that's true. And then if you go a bit deeper, then the idea of a twin flame is that it's soul and spirit, it's feminine and masculine parts of you, and that's true. And you balance them in your heart. Then if you go deeper again, and you come into the twin flame balance in your heart, and then you ignite the Christ consciousness, and you know that you're unity consciousness, and that everything out there is a part of you. Then the world becomes your twin flame. Everything outside of you becomes the absolute mirror of what's inside of you. And if you look at a person, you know, Black Elk used to say to me, you know, is this person, you know, your twin flame or not your twin flame? What happens when you unite with the person and it's your twin flame, and you know it's your twin flame, and then 2 years later it just goes wrong, and you move on, and then someone else comes in and said, gosh, no, he couldn't have been my twin flame, because this is definitely my twin flame. It's not that he's not your twin flame, and that the other person wasn't your twin flame. It's what I talked about before, about seeing yourself outside of yourself, and that in relationships with soul family, here's my soul sister, and she's reflecting a part of your soul, a part of your consciousness that is a sisterly part, or maybe a mother energy, or sister energy, or father energy, or whatever kind of brother energy, whatever kind of energy they're bringing to you, and you say, that's my soul mother, that's my soul father, that's my soul brother, that's my soul sister, and so on and so forth. But then it goes sour, because you're relaying energy back and forth to each other, and if one party doesn't shift with the other, then that party starts to see their negativity in the other person instead of their light. And then they start to go, well, I don't like her anymore, or no, she's not the person I thought she was, or you know, or whatever. You might have done that in the past, whereas now, you know, a conscious person would say, oh well, there's an aspect of myself that I see in her that I don't like, and I'm going to lift it up here and now, you know, because there's humility, and there's awareness of being everything and nothing at the same time. So that level of humility and being nothingness allows you to look at a twin flame or a soul family member a twin flame and look at him and say, well, you know, there's all that shit, and clearly this is something that I'm working through. It's either a part of me that I'm not looking at, or it's something that I'm judging. And at this stage of the game, it's usually something that you're judging. Once you've really kind of done your healing work, and then you find difficulty in the world with people or whatever, you don't like that type of person or this whatever, then it's something that you're judging, and it's usually that you're judging your old energy. So you're kind of you're holding on, aren't you? And I mean, right now, that's the I'm going to go off on one here, but I'm going to go anyway. Right now, I believe the only reason that there's this divide in the world with people, that everybody's separating and dividing and having such difficulty with each other, is because we're still holding on to the old energy. We're looking back. We're afraid of death. As Mariana, you say, are you afraid? You know, and I think, you know, a part of us is afraid. A part of us doesn't want to let go. A part of us can't quite stay conscious, fully conscious in the moment, every moment. And they're holding on to the old energy, so they see it in the world, and then they're judging it because they say, oh no, I'm done with that, I'm done with that. I'm going to move on from that, so I'm going to put that person out of my life. Well, you can put that person out of your life, but I guarantee you're going to meet someone else the same, because the only reason that person was there is because you were holding on to your old energy. Do you get that? This war, the divide that's happening now in the world, will only stop when the war inside you stops. When you come into balance, into the threefold flame, the crystalline heart, or the red stone of power, and you rest in that peace, in that eternal peace, and you stop judging the world, then the war inside you will stop, and the war outside of you will stop, and there will be no division. Everything will be one, and everything will be one, and nothing and everything at the same time. Can someone here now be a twin flame? I answered that question. Absolutely. So you can have your twin flame only in spirit, as in the likes of me and Black Elk. Now that's a very different thing altogether from saying that the world is your twin flame, because the world is your twin flame. And if you look at any part of the world, Black Elk would always say to me, no matter what you're looking at, no matter who you're looking at, if you look deep enough into that soul, you will find your twin flame, because you're looking deep, deep into yourself. If I look at a tree and I fall in love with the tree, I'm looking at my twin flame. And if I look at you and I fall in love with you, I'm looking at my twin flame. So my twin flame doesn't necessarily have to be something masculine. It can be a woman, it can be a tree, it can be the sun, it can be a flower, or it can be a man. As I look at my husband, my task these days is to find the twin flame in my husband. So as I look at my husband, and of course I'm judging my husband, I judge him a lot, and when I judge him, then it's my job then to be aware of that, to stop judging and look for life, look for light, look for love, look for myself, which is light and love. Look for the highest, and then the twin flame will appear in him. So he is my twin flame in those moments. And I have had many, many moments where I have been without a doubt that he is my twin flame. And yet Black Elk is my twin flame. Black Elk is my twin flame in as much as in the beginning, we're talking about in the beginning of life, when life began, and we're not talking about human beings. We're just talking about maybe the essence of life, the presence of life in a spiritual form only, maybe, perhaps. Certainly before Lemuria was a thing for me. I existed in a spiritual dimension only, and yet I was a soul existing in a spiritual dimension. And like all souls, eventually came into physicality. And when you come into physicality, then you're coming into duality. Spirit is only one dimension. Physicality is two-dimensional. When you come into physicality, then it seems like you split. And so a lot of light workers, I mean, you guys have done this years ago, but we'll just retread that with different words maybe. Then a lot of light workers then would talk about having lost half of themselves, having split in two. And there's this great divide as they split in two. So incidentally, I want to say that, remember I said that everything in duality, what I say, what you say, what you're looking at, everything has a teaching for you. So just have a look at what I said there. I said in the beginning, before your soul came into physicality, it split into two. When it came into physicality, it split into two. Before, it was in one dimension, and then it split into two, and it was in two dimension and three dimension. And then I said a great divide happened where your soul split in two. Well, have a look at what's happening today, and we're talking about a great divide happening. That alone should teach us that we are one. And instead of dividing ourselves, we ought to unite ourselves and come into that conscious awareness 24/7. I am one with that which I am outside of myself. Therefore, I do not separate myself from myself. I do not reject or disregard a part of myself, lest I keep alive that divide that I experienced when I first came into physicality. There's the, I suppose you could call it the conundrum in that, in the idea of the world being divided now. Now, of course, is right here, now, eternity. There is nothing but now. So now we split into two, and now we're coming back into two, into one. Keep firing up questions if you want, guys. We've got 15 minutes left, so we can talk on. So yeah, the twin flame then is found in anything. In, you know, you can look at anything, as I said at the beginning of this tutorial. You can look at anything in the world and find your mind, body, spirit. Find answers, a piece of yourself, according to your mental body, according to your emotional self, according to your physical self. You can find information, bring them all within, bring them into balance, and integrate a higher awareness of that teaching. So within that process, you are looking at duality. You're looking at up down, you're looking at in out, you're looking at divide, unite, you're looking at love hate, you're looking at fear and security or whatever, and you bring everything back into one, into the moment. So, you know, people are talking about, you know, the fear-based people in the world, and the love-based people in the world that have wakened up, or that who are awake. When you look at a person that's unconscious, they might be afraid of certain things, you might be afraid of certain things, but they are love, and they are you, and you cannot separate them from yourself, lest you keep that divide alive. So when you separate from something in this world because you say, oh no, I'm done with that, you're dividing yourself. You're separating yourself. And there's no getting away from that truth. There is no getting away from that truth. But it is the most human part of us. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to look at something in the world and go, I do it all the time. You know, oh no, I don't want that. Oh no, I don't want to. I'd cross the street and I don't want to talk to her. You know? And I'm separating myself. So the task is to find a way to be gracious, to find a way to act out of love. It's okay to be done with certain frequencies, and be done with even certain people. It's okay to be done with those people if those people are rude to you, if they abuse you, if they've lied to you, if you experience nothing but suffering when you're around them. It's okay to walk away from those people and wipe the dust from your feet, but it's not okay to judge them. It's not okay to say they're that and I'm this, because you've just separated yourself. So there's the conundrum, there's the difficulty of the task that masters know how to do. Masters know how to separate from their old energy that's out in the world there, the stuff that they don't like, the people that they don't like, the part-times that they don't want to do anymore, the old governments, the old industries and capitalism and religion and all of those things that we are trying to release with the old world, and that's what we're doing, and we're kind of dividing a new world and an old world, but we need to be very, very careful not to divide ourselves in the process. So we must walk away from those things and yet love them at the same time, and that requires understanding, acceptance, compassion, in the very same way as we worked on our own individual souls. The parts of me that I didn't like, the part that hated me, the part that was always criticized my husband, the part that criticized myself, the part that was never good enough, the part that felt that I would always fail, the part that argued a black crow white, said I was right even when I was wrong. You know, when I have healed those parts of me, then I set them aside. But I don't say I'm not that person any longer, because that person is as much a part of me as this person is right here and now. It's your choices that make a difference. You can't separate yourself. You must have compassion for your darkness, and you must love it into transformation. But that doesn't mean turning your back on the person that you were, and seeing that person in other people as well, and judging them. It means not being that anymore. It means being light. It means choosing a positive path, and loving yourself and having compassion for yourself, but also for those people that you don't tolerate anymore. Also for the religions that you can't tolerate anymore, the governments that you can't tolerate anymore, the capitalism that you can't tolerate anymore. You've got to tolerate them. You've got to, well, not even so much that you've got to tolerate them, you've got to accept their perspective. You've got to expect their opinion, and you've got to accept that that the moment you focus all of your energy on positivity, on not capitalism, whatever our new ism is going to be, selfism, masterism, I-ism, I don't know, whatever ism we're going to have next, focus on the one that you want. Put all of your energy into that, all of your thoughts into that. That's the way my life is. That's who I am. That's what I want to see in the world. And when you see something that's not it, have compassion for it. To look at, and Patricia says, to look for the light in someone is an aspect. Is it an aspect of their character? Yes, because all form comes from source, comes from light. All form is various densities of light. So if you get a person who's awake, consciously awake, and they're very light and lovely to be with, and then you have a person who's very unconscious and maybe a real grumbly git, and maybe a hypochondriac or an angry person. They're not nice to be with. But they're still one and the same. They're still one and the same light from source. They're still the flame of God, and they still have that light deep within. They're still your twin flame. If you look deeply enough into them, you will see your twin flame. So you're right, Patricia. And I know Patricia to be a person who does this. I know Patricia to be a person who looks for the light in others, who looks for the best in others, and is extremely tolerant of other people's opinions and perspectives, accepting that they may be not the same as hers, and yet she loves them anyway. And I think that's the best that you can do. I think it's the best you can do. And if you do that, then that will strengthen and deepen into a higher level. Because if you're projecting compassionate love from your thymus, Christ love, through your rose frequencies into the world towards other people, that is an amazing transformation of the entire universe. But if you take that power that you have now and project a thought of, oh, I hate that, oh my God, oh, she does that, I hate that, I can't be with her, I can't do that. What are you doing? You're sending such a heavy thought of separation and division through something very, very powerful, and keeping division alive, keeping yourself from experience and mastery, from experience and oneness with the light within. So Patricia's absolutely right. Look for the light, seek the light always in all things, especially those things that you don't like, especially those things that you have a problem with. And Black Elk always taught me that before I even understood it from this level. He used to say, he had a sister-in-law that he didn't like, and he couldn't be around her. She was a very difficult person, always moaning. But he told me he would find the light in her, and the way that he did that was he used to compliment her and say nice things to her, and then she'd brighten, and before long she was responding with reflecting him. And I'm sure you guys, we're almost done now, but I just wanted to finish up with this because it's a lovely thought. And my husband actually said this today. He reminded me that when you bring a positive light energy to any difficult situation, then everything smooths out, everything flows well for you. And a classic example of that was, I had an issue with the bank, and I was irate. I was like, God, I have to get this sorted. And went into the bank, and I totally centered myself in Christ's love. And with a huge big smile on my face, I went up to the bank teller and I, good morning, isn't it a lovely day? And gosh, you're looking well. And listen, I have a wee problem, and you'll probably be able to help me, because that's why you're on that side of the fence and that's why I'm over here, or something like that. And you know what? You totally get that person lifted. If you smile and say something positive and say something nice about them, they will completely lift up. And what you're looking at then is the light. You're looking at a reflection of yourself, and then your desires come into manifestation and everything just goes smoothly. But if you come with a complaint and say this isn't good enough, and this is unacceptable, or whatever, and then immediately you've put a division up. You've put that up there. That's right, Mariana. We have no idea how powerful we actually are. And it is at this stage of your psychic development and your spiritual development, especially your spiritual development, at this stage, it's very, very important to be positive and to be aware of just how powerful you are. Because what you're putting out there is manifesting like that now, so quickly, because the vibrations of your energy field have quickened so much. The process of creation and transubstantiation that is coming from your emanations is happening like this. So everything's changing very, very quickly and re-manifesting very, very quickly. What we hold on to, then we'll see that still in the world. So you've got to let go of the judgments of your old energy. You've got to let go of all idea that that you're separating from the fear-based people. Because I guarantee you, see, whenever you come into the light completely, and you're living in a rose world where everything's always so joyful, you'll be surrounded by those very people that you thought were fear-based, and they'll be light and bright as well. But they're not going to wake up until you wake up. They're not going to brighten until you brighten. They're not going to let go of fear until you let go of fear. They're not going to let go of division until you let go of division. So you see where I'm getting at? You see, that's the conundrum of the two roads. That every equal opposite of one thing has the center point where you see both opposite sides, where you see both extremes, but from the center you bring the Christ love, and then everything comes into oneness. But it's not going to come into oneness unless you come into the center, and that means every concept, every person, every place, every experience, even the idea of death. So listen guys, we're up to 9 o'clock here, and that's been a very deep discussion, that one, and I hope I did it justice. I'll probably later on think, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. Doesn't matter. I said what was meant to be said, and you'll receive what you're meant to receive from your perspective, and you'll grow and change and lighten according to what's on your path for yourself, and you'll come into your unique flame of service according to your unique rose frequency emanations from your crystalline heart. And when you do that, everything in the world will be your twin flame. But just before we go, what I did begin to say and forgot was that at that point of before you come into duality, and you were only spiritual soul in singularity, when you come into duality, you seem to separate, and there was a loss of kind of half yourself, and then you spend the rest of your spiritual journey trying to come back into oneness. That twin part of you is the unique twin flame, the original twin flame. So whatever incarnation that was, be it Lemuria or before Lemuria or whatever, that is your unique twin flame. And Black Elk is a descendant of that unique twin flame. And I am the descendant of the soul that separated. So that's why we're twin flames. So yes, twin flame is in everything, and you will find it in all people in all places. That's why you find a twin flame and then it goes sour, and then the next thing you think, well, was he my twin flame, or is this person my twin flame? Because everybody is, everything is, and yet there is that counterpart, that original counterpart, that original twin flame at the same time, which is also true. Okay, so it's 1 minute past. I'm going to say goodbye. I thoroughly enjoyed our work. I will post a few things up in the group as usual, and post about the premium classes that you can avail of, and then even after this is all over, you'll always be able to avail of those classes. So just ask me if you want to do them even one-to-one. It's absolutely doable. So ask me anything. If you want to further your teaching with me in any way, then that's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. And yeah, with regards to whether or not I'm going to do these 6 weeks again, I don't think I am. I think I'm going to keep these tutorials, and I'm going to pass them to people that way. But they won't be sitting in the Facebook live events once a week. They'll just receive the 6 tutorials, that kind of a way. So if you have any friends or that would like to do the course, then it's very possible then they can get the full course all at once. Thank you to you, and thank you to everybody. And may all of you be blessed with love and light eternally. Bye bye now, bye bye, and big love.